All right, thank you everyone for joining. We are going to give it a couple of minutes for people to dial in before we kick off. We are all here ready to launch, but some of us are finishing other meetings and on the jobs, so we have to respect that. But I'm seeing some familiar names here. Thank you very much to the students, faculty, alumni, and friends and partners of the program who are joining this very, very thought-provocative session, I must promise you. Okay. All right. So this is me speaking, Anna Tavis. I'm hosting the new 2024-2025 season of Rethinking Work series. As you know, we go by, not by calendar seasons or financial markets, we go by academic schedules here at NYU. So we have a lot of people who signed up, so we are hoping to bring everyone together on this particular very exciting and very relevant topic to all of us. Okay. I'll give it just a couple more minutes. All right. As I can see, the numbers will start slowing down a little bit on attendees joining. Another couple of minutes. And as we're still collecting the audience here, you all know the rules there. We are recording this, by the way. This session is going to be shared with all of you. And as we go through the presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A tab, which is separate from the chat. You're welcome to send any notes through the chat from where you are dialing from or any other kind of session-related general comments, but the questions we appreciate so that they don't get overcrowded in the chat here. Please put them in the Q&A. All right, I'm going to kick off. So again, thrilled to welcome you to 2024-2025 Rethinking Work series. This year, we're going to bring you many dynamic conversations with thought leaders on the future of workplace, and we have an exciting agenda lined up. But to kick things off, we have a very special guest, a colleague, professor of psychology from NYU, and a well-known author and an expert on social relationships at work, a topic that is so critical to all of our career success. And Dr. West is going to talk to us about the deeper reasons behind job dissatisfaction and will guide us toward finding a career where you can truly thrive. So on this note, I am going to give the mic to Professor West and just ask my very first question, and then I will be listening just and taking notes just as attentively as all of you. So what inspired you to write another book on jobs and careers? What sets you apart from the rest of the job career advice market?
I love this question because it is a very saturated market. So for those of you who have ever read a career book, and there's a lot of promises out there about, how to get all of our kind of problems fixed in this space. I think I came at this problem a little bit differently than I think most people in this career space who tend to be coaches or people who've worked in industry and have noticed patterns and have focused a lot on kind of the structural problems at work. So I think we have a tendency when we're unhappy at work to think about, what's going on? Is it that we're not making enough money? Is it that people are mean to us? Is it that we're forced back to the office and we don't want to be anymore? But I actually think for most of us, those are symptoms of the problem. They're not the problem themselves. And I'm a relationship scientist by training, and I teach a course on close relationships at NYU. I teach romantic relationship development. I teach dating, falling in love, breaking up with someone, talking to people about sticky issues. And I kind of came around to this idea that our career is very much like a relationship partner. It is something that we have an on again, off again relationship. It's something that we have ambivalent feelings towards. We can love it and hate it. We can fall in love with it and it cannot love us back. It cannot give us promotions. As an academic, I deal with students who can't get jobs all the time. What do I do? Do I let go of this thing that I feel committed to? And so I really try to write a book that thinks about your career like a relationship partner that you have these complex feelings toward. And that when it comes to figuring out why you're miserable, you really need to dig into that kind of deep psychological stuff going on that has to do with that relationship getting off the rails a bit. And it's not always about compensation. That might be a symptom, but it's not the real problem. It's about feeling like you're not being heard, or that you don't know what you're doing wrong, or that you've drifted apart. And so this book is different in the sense of it really does treat your career like a relationship partner. And then I walk through the steps that one would take to kind of figure out what's going wrong in that relationship and how you can get it on track. And at what point should you actually take a leap and leave? And much of that has come from teaching close relationships, studying relationships, being trained as a romantic relationships expert, and applying a lot of those principles to our relationships with our careers and with our jobs. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah,
There you
that is incredibly relevant because you also talk about mirroring the language even in the job and in the relationship. And we know from all of the research how connected and what the impact is of your healthy job relationships and your relationships at work. We used to talk about work-life balance. What do you think about that whole conversation about work-life balance and the mirroring of the two identities that we create that should be really one?
It's funny. I sort of have grown, and you're going to notice throughout this session that I'm pretty cynical about a lot of things. I don't love that phrase work-life balance. I think it assumes that just because we spend time in one place, it means we're not at that other thing. But anyone who's ever dealt with both having a career and also a life outside of that, which is everybody, you realize that you think about your job when you're, getting your nails done, or when you're having you're hanging out with your friends. That balance is not so much about time spent at places. That balance is much about finding the right sort of psychological distance from your job, when you're at home, and vice versa. And I've really come around to this idea that I think a lot of us are striving for work-life balance, not because we don't know that we're not physically at the job or that we have a auto away message, but because we don't have that psychological distance formula figured out. We're letting our jobs define our whole identities. And then when things go badly, it kind of crashes us a little bit, and it harms our self-esteem in ways that we're having a hard time rebounding from. And so we get outcomes like stress contagion. My boss yelled at me and now I'm kind of mean to my kids or my spouse. We're finding problems with sleep. This book, I talk about the daily stress test, this idea that little stressors at work can deteriorate your sleep and your other health issues. So work-life balance isn't so much about balancing your hours, balancing how much time you spend at something. It's about psychological distance and finding a career that gives you the right amount of distance that you're actually looking for and striving for. And that's tough to do. But I do feel like a lot of us are fed a lie that if you find a job that respects your work hours, that you're going to get work-life balance. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. It's a psychological balance that we're striving for. It's not so much hours of the day spent doing certain things.
I love that because for most of us, as you know, we write books, etc., that require a lot of concentration, but it doesn't mean that is affecting us in a negative way. I love how you describe 5 drivers that push people to consider leaving their jobs, like crisis of identity, drifting apart, again, that language of relationships. Could you expand on that concept a little bit and how it can help us better understand our place in the work environment?
Yeah, so I think everyone wants to know kind of what is a starting point? If I'm unhappy, where should I start digging in first? And what I've done with this book is kind of broken the chapters into these 5 drivers. There's little quizzes at the start of the book and the intro that will kind of help you figure out which you are. They're also all on my website you can take. And then within each chapter, kind of a deeper dive. But the organization around these drivers is really all about how much you are still in love with your job and how much your job is still in love with you. And so, the crisis of identity is really about a person who really felt like they're on the right path. And now they're having this kind of existential crisis that maybe this isn't for them, but they have put a lot of time and effort into it. Many are embedded in the workplace. And they're kind of in a panic. And there's a lot of guilt and shame that comes with that feeling. Maybe their families are going to think that they are completely crazy by going off course, or they spent a ton of money, so they have sunk costs. But we question relationships all the time that we're dedicated to and that we are entrenched in. And that's really what that's about. Drifting apart is also about falling out of love with your career, but in a different way. It's about not recognizing what you fell in love with. It's changed, you've changed, you're not quite sure in what ways or why. And understanding sort of like the connection between big top-down changes and the ones you feel is a challenge for a lot of people. And knowing, has the whole industry changed or is it just my job? I think that's a big question for people. I talk a little bit about feeling torn between places, feeling spread too thin, which can deteriorate our feelings of commitment to a job, but also how much we love something. I think all of us task switch too much. We take on roles that we have no business taking on that don't actually help us. And so that chapter kind of addresses some of the symptoms of the problems we feel in the other chapters. And then the last 2 chapters are all about being in love with a career that doesn't love you back in the ways it should. And I think this is common for people. They're runners up. They can't land a promotion or raise. They can't get that next step. And they don't know what they're doing wrong. The effort is there. The commitment is there, but there's missteps that people aren't telling them that they're making. There's communication gaps. And then feeling like an underappreciated star. I'm so badass. How come people don't appreciate it or pay me for it? And the world might even acknowledge that you're awesome, but there's just no market for you. Stars are just not, good enough is fine. And so kind of knowing whether that's what's going on with you, that, you might be amazing, but no one cares about hiring amazing. They care about hiring someone for a lot less money who is the next step down. And that's really all about reconciling with a career that you love that isn't giving you those things back. So for those of you who have ever been in a relationship where you're buying the person's stuff, your commitment, you're over the top and they're just sort of like, yeah, okay, thanks. You know what it feels like to sort of go through that. So they're really organized around like that, the kind of commitment and love that you're feeling or not feeling towards your job at different career stages.
I love this explanation. I think it really shines some light on all the different range of emotions and feelings that we go through at work. As you were looking at so much data, and what I loved about your book is that it's really research based. It's not anecdotal. It's not the couple of interviews that influence how you looked at the field as a whole. So you collected all of these data and from both employees and hiring managers and employers, et cetera. What were some of the most surprising insights that are not sort of the common language about work that you came across that data really elevated to your attention?
Yeah. One kind of theme throughout all these chapters is how many communication gaps there are between what we think we should be doing to get ahead and what we actually should be doing. Probably the biggest surprise finding was from my runner-up chapter when I asked people, do you know why you didn't get the job, why you didn't get the promotion? And I gave them a list of options, and only 7% of people were given feedback following any kind of failure. Even when I ask hiring managers and leaders, why did you tell people why they did or didn't get promoted? It was like 30% even gave that feedback. People who were promoted didn't even know why. So it's not like we're just afraid of giving failure feedback, which we know is a problem. We don't even give success feedback. Here's why you were chosen for this job above all else. And I think, part of the problem there that trickles down is we have a very weak sense of what a success pipeline looks like at work. And I mean that in like a pretty broad sense. We don't know who the relevant social comparison others are. We don't know who we should actually be comparing ourselves to when it comes to applying for jobs. Is it people with a master's or a PhD? We don't know how many times it takes to apply for something before people actually get it. We don't know what roles we should be filling. So there's a million questions. And even the leaders that I talked to said, oh, yeah, we actually don't tell people these things. They sort of have to magically figure it out or just serendipitously get it right. And I was shocked at how open people were with like their willingness to say we don't tell people things. The other kind of crazy finding I found in this work is that the number one reason why people are making career missteps is because they're taking on roles and tasks that they think give them visibility at work. They are running committees that allow them to interface with big named people, with executives, with leaders. They get to press the flesh, but these rarely showcase their actual skills at work. They are committees for employee resource groups. They are things that give them notoriety, but they don't showcase their skills. And leaders will happily say, oh, yes, we beg people to do those things and we overpromise what we can deliver on them because we just need someone to take the job. So I learned an important lesson, which is if someone asks you to take on one of these roles, ask them the question, will this be something that even comes up in conversations around promotion? Not does my performance matter or does this matter, but will it even be discussed the fact that people are doing this? That's where you get the honest answers. And so people are often asked to do things that are not good for their careers, but they assume that because a leader is asking them to do it, it is good for them. And very often it's not. And it's really about visibility. It's about pressing the flesh, but it's not about showcasing their actual skills and talents in the ways that matter for promotion. So that was kind of like another aha moment. I'm like, wow, people are doing all kinds of stuff that isn't helpful. And the people asking them know it's not helpful, but they're doing it anyway. And we're all operating in this under these rules that we think exist that simply don't.
That is such an incredible insight because we always hear, you have to take a step up, and that's where you probably something that leads to burnout because you actually
Mhm.
don't have time to do your day job because you're overcommitted to these visibility opportunities that, to your point, don't really deliver the results. That's incredibly helpful insight. Just one more point around this kind of lack of feedback. I think one of the pivotal moments in jobs oftentimes that is specifically, brutal and cruel to feels that way when people get laid off.
Yeah.
There's probably the least feedback that people get. They're just told. In fact, for the
Yeah.
majority of cases, they were given good performance
Yeah.
evaluations or at least satisfactory performance evaluations with no feedback whatsoever. And the next thing they know,
Yeah.
they're no longer in the job. So do you have any insights around that since we had such waves of layoffs recently?
Yeah, I think, another thing I kind of learned in this under the underappreciated star slash runner up category, which includes people who have been laid off, is that there's a lot of kind of hidden reasons why you're laid off that actually don't necessarily have to do with you. They have to do with the power of your manager to control who gets promoted and who actually gets laid off. Knowing how much your particular leader has a say over these things like layoffs or teams that have been reconsolidated into one is a major piece of the puzzle. This isn't to say that it's always your manager's fault you were laid off, but people are shocked at how little power the person that they report to has over who gets these things. I had an incredible conversation with someone who was unable to get promoted and did eventually get laid off, where he realized that his manager didn't have enough tenure at the company to have say over which 50 employees get rescued in this next big batch of layoffs. And he just happened to work for someone who didn't have that tenure. And so he got put in the pile of potential layoffs. From there was like a whole sorting process, based on some numerics that you can usually get data from. But the real reason was he got put in a pile because of the tenure of his manager. And so we often don't think, how much power does my leader have to make these decisions? We assume that if they like us, that's going to count in some meaningful way. And that often isn't the case. And I think with big batch layoffs, team consolidation tends to happen when those teams are overseen by leaders who don't have the power to rescue them. They don't have the social status to rescue those teams from a batch of layoffs. So it's not so much about what am I doing wrong, it's how much power and status does the person have to rescue me from this particular outcome. That is kind of the question you want to ask, because often you have those performance metrics and it's not about you as an individual, it's about kind of what group you kind of belong to in that setting. And I think one thing we often don't ask is sort of like, what is the pattern of layoffs in those batches and who can we affiliate those patterns with team wise, you know, in silos, you can see these things, and manager wise, and look to see if there are some patterns around the tenure of the managers and so forth, controlling those kinds of things. And I just think with middle management, we often don't ask that question.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely all of our experience. Those of us who have been through various stages in the organization, we know that the status of your manager and the courage of your manager, because a lot of managers, even if they had a little bit of power and decision power in this case, might not want to jeopardize their own career, stepping up and defending their teams. So there are lots of these intricate, complex relationship networks that are built in an organization. Do you have any recommendations around how to navigate that power structure? So you love your job, you're willing to step up and do the right thing, but at the same time, you also want to kind of develop the right relationships in the organization. So when needed, you have sponsors who can advocate for your promotion. You have people who will put you on projects that really matter, and you have an input into kind of or help you move within that power structure.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. I do some work with Gavin Kilduff, who's a faculty member at Stern, on a concept called status acuity, which is your ability to read the room, essentially. You know who has status and who doesn't, and not just on your own team, but like within the organization more generally. And he has shown that people who are good at knowing who has status, and I'll just define it for folks, respect and admiration by colleagues, which is different from power, the ability to control resources. Status is something that is given to us by other people. We can't take it ourselves. It has to be granted. And so knowing who actually holds those kind of gold coins in an organization is essential for knowing who to go to for help, how to learn how to have voice, knowing what norms you can violate and which you can't, and critically knowing what roles you should take on and which you shouldn't that will actually help your career. All of those juicy bits that help us climb ahead. Learning status, the status of others, and having status acuity really comes down to exposure to people in multiple social interaction settings. And so, status acuity or reading the room is something that you can perceive by watching small, everyday social interactions between people. Everything from when you write an email to the boss, how long does it take your boss to reply to you versus how long does it take the boss to reply to Bob in the cubicle next to you? It's twice as long for Bob than you, and this is a pattern. You probably have more status with that boss than Bob does. Or when, your boss interrupts in a meeting, do people allow that person to hold the floor or do they interrupt them? When you bring up an interesting idea, does it stick and get built upon, or is there an awkward silence for 2 seconds and then the team goes back to new direction? I talk about all these status cues in my work with Gavin, and Gavin's an expert in this space. And I have a whole section on like, do you know how much status you have in the book? Because I think it's an essential skill, but it scares people to learn about status. People don't even like talking about status. It feels a little bit gross and slimy, but it's absolutely essential to figuring out who to go to for help and how to do all of these things that you just mentioned. But it's a learnable thing if you know what cues to look for. And I think that a lot of us are living in a world now where we have very small insular social networks on Zoom rooms. We don't spread out much and we don't watch the interactions that other people have with each other so much. But you absolutely need to be in those rooms with those meetings to see who gets to walk out to get coffee in the middle and who would get shamed for doing it, who's allowed to be late, who can talk first. All of those things will give you cues to who has status. And it's not just about who claims to have it, who claims to know the most, who claims to have the best advice. But it takes some time to learn these things and to kind of, keep track of them. But I think it's an absolutely essential skill that's a little bit underestimated in the workplace, but key to doing exactly what you just talked about.
Wonderful. There are a couple of questions that I have, and then we can move on to the questions from the audience. First of all, today is the pay equity day, right? So there are a few questions, and they're more nuanced, but have you seen the gender differences? What is your advice? How do people navigate their careers differently from these, from these different gender roles?
Yeah, I mean, this is a complex question. I do some work on gender in the workplace. I would say that yes, these pay gaps still exist in academia. They're mostly at the top. We have some procedures to get rid of them at the bottom, but as you climb up, you really see them. And there's lots of reasons why they exist. Transparency is your friend. I think you need to have transparent conversations with people in your industry. We need to be open about what we make. We need to be open about what people are making at other jobs. We need to destigmatize and make it less taboo to talk about these things. Because when it comes to negotiating for salaries and things like that, the best way to win these negotiations is to come with a lot of data and to be able to information seek in those negotiations. You need to actually know what people are making in comparable roles so that you can make an argument for yourself. And that argument can't just be because I deserve it. It actually needs to be equity based and needs to be performance based. Behavioral data is your friend. If you can come and say, look, this person is making X and here's their performance metrics. I'm making 30% less. Here's my performance metrics. Can you give me a rational reason why I shouldn't make the same as them? And put it in the burden of the hiring manager to explain why they can't give you equity, not why you deserve equity. And I think once you flip that script a little bit, it certainly helps. But I really think we have to share these numbers with each other. And I highly encourage people to do that. Academia, deans hate this. They don't want us talking about how much money we make. We sign NDAs when we get counters and stuff. But there's lots of ways we can be compensated. And I think I've been surprised at all the little perks people have managed to pull out of jobs compensation wise, but you don't know other people are getting certain kinds of things. I know people who got their cleaning person paid for as part of their compensation package. And, just little things like that. I think we have to be open with each other. But the key to kind of having these conversations isn't I deserve it or this is unfair. That will tend to not move the needle much. It's here are my performance metrics. Here's theirs. Here's the salary data. Can you explain to me why I'm not in this category? And have them give you an explanation that needs to be a good one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be a flight risk.
I like that. Instead of confronting, and blaming somebody and acting a victim, in fact, saying what should I be doing to be, paid equally to the people who I know are rewarded more than I am. One more, I want to squeeze in one more question, and that is about remote work. I think my personal bias, and I've done quite a bit of research on that being fully remote actually might be more challenging for your career success and job satisfaction. And do you have any research, any observations as to how people can balance their flexible work schedules?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing thing. I think, Amazon just put something out yesterday. Everyone 5 days in, people are pretty pissed about it. There's a lot of research that suggests that being in an office is good. Of course, it's only good if other people are there. If you're alone in an office, it's pointless, which a lot of companies are actually still doing. The benefits are, social networking, having your invisible labor seen, learning status cues, but also creativity. And I think a lot of us sort of think about working in an office as a structural thing, like I have to get on the train and come in. But a lot of kind of what gets our juices flowing and what it makes us able to get over those low points in our career, which everyone has, are those social networks, those relationships we have. I mean, personally, when I'm feeling down in the dumps and I don't feel like my work is purposeful, I feel like it's boring and I'm questioning this. You can try to go deep in solving that problem. But for me, the solution is just to hang out with my friend Yasna in physics and have coffee for an hour. And it's actually little things like that can boost your mood. And it doesn't always need to be a deep, complex kind of solution to what feels like a wicked problem. And I think for a lot of us, that is the benefit. It are those little moments that we often underestimate, stress buffering and things like that. But I think just structurally, and this gets into your gender question, women do a lot more invisible work than men do in life and in the workplace. And by that, I mean work you don't get explicit credit for because there's no system for it or no one sees you do it. And this isn't just helping behavior, this is like actual labor that you're doing. Often this is done because the boss is calling in a favor and that boss is not motivated to actually showcase that work in promotion conversations because it makes them look bad that they didn't have their shit together to do it themselves or to have the right person do it. And being in an office outs that. It shines a light on a lot of those things. So I think the benefits are not just social; they are about getting credit for things. And I think, I do a lot of team research, and as a boss, I can't expect other people to come in if I'm not here. And I actually enjoy, those kinds of social relationships. So, structure your hybrid days, be very careful around who else you want to be around. I just had a kind of interesting conversation with a team of lawyers last night that I'm like, how do you figure out? It's like joint custody. How do you figure out your Tuesday to Friday schedule? How do you decide you wanted to go on Wednesdays? And some of them were like, well, that's when the train schedule aligns with my kids', daycare. But others were like, well, that's when the following people who are like major nodes of the network are around, and I can go to them to like learn about status. They didn't say it that way, but that's really what they meant. I can go to them to get informal advice on X. That's how you should be structuring what days you come in. Who else is there and what's the utility of being around those other folks and building those relationships.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. A lots of questions are coming in for people's specific situations. I'm sure you've experienced that before in your presentations. People always bring their personal experiences, but for somebody, like a general question, for somebody listening right now to you who feels stuck in a job, but they don't know how to make a change, where would you start? How do you advise them to strategically, without being overly emotional, and again, blaming other people for their situation? How do they go practically about making a healthy transition and making the right decision about their jobs?
I think that the best place to start for anyone who's thinking about or is even happy but curious, or a little bit bored, it isn't actually to make any change at all. At first, I highly recommend that you talk to strangers. I talk a lot in this book about networking, which is like a gross word. Not networking in the sense of like, I need to find people to hire me, but just information seeking. And so, I have a Substack where I have a whole one that's just called How to Talk to Strangers. And it's all about asking people what the day in the life is like of other jobs and not making any decisions at all, but setting up a couple conversations a week. And I can give you a guide of like how to actually get people to respond to you if you cold email, and what to do and what not to do to get those responses. We have 15-minute chats where you send people 3 questions. It's about the day in the life of their jobs. Nothing deep. Is it purpose driven? How did you get here? Just tell me what your days are like and answer the question. Before I started this job, nobody told me that. And I love that question because you're going to get all kinds of crazy answers that will reveal things about jobs and careers that you never could have read on websites. I gave that question to 400 people, and a lot of the answers had to do with hidden roles and tasks that were not advertised, but are actually part of the job you're expected to do, but no hiring manager will tell you, and no job ad will describe, and it won't be on a website. So set up chats with people, ask them to describe the day in the life of their job and ask them to answer that question. Before I start this job, nobody told me that. That is your first step. No matter where your starting point is, don't need to apply to anything. You don't need to change your resume. You don't need to try to sell yourself to hiring managers. You simply need to information seek by asking people these questions. And you're going to collect a ton of data and you can organize it in little tables. I have lots of guides for folks who are interested just to learn. Like that's it. That's your only goal initially, is just learning things. People feel the need to do something. You don't need to do anything. Don't quit. You just need to learn things. That should really be your starting point, and you can spend a couple months in that stage.
I love that. Because one of the questions that came in was about, oftentimes what all people see is the job description. And when they actually arrive, it turns out that it's not even close to what was
Yeah.
expected. So your recommendation would be maybe to start networking and filling out, those blanks around what is the culture, or what is the day at this particular job, what that might look like. Is that how it could be used to reconcile the
Oh,
misalignment
yeah.
between the job description and the actual job situation?
I did a lot of work on the origin of job descriptions, and it never has anything to do with the job. It has to do with the iterative process that recruiters use to source candidates, which basically means getting people to apply. It has to do with their compensation and how they're paid. And a lot of recruiters are paid by having a funnel that starts really wide. They get 30,000 applicants and they can narrow it down to 50, and their incentive is to get more. And they often take it down, put it back up, take it down, put it back up. It's too narrow. It's not narrow enough. And they do these searches on LinkedIn where they put a bunch of search terms in to try to figure out who would fit. And if they can't find people who would fit, then they redo it. And they often just take other people's job ads. So you think it's a deep thing that is like, oh, a bunch of people sat around in a room and they came up with an ad that really reflects the job. Most of the time, here's another shocking piece of data I got from doing research. The person who you will report to, your manager has never seen the ad. Just it goes into HR. It's created by some recruiter. They don't even have a say over what's in the ad. And yet somehow they're gonna, so even asking that question on an interview, has my manager seen the ad and what do they think of it? Did they weigh in? You're gonna get a lot of, what do you mean? Of course not. That's, I think, surprises people.
Yeah, and it also has to do with the silos in HR. Recruitment is done by people, and if they consult with compensation because of those bands, compensation bands, that's probably the most collaboration that you will see,
Yeah.
to your point. So getting in the job process, getting directly to the manager and having that conversation with the manager is almost like a must
Yeah.
if you want to know, to get as close to the actual job as possible. There was a really interesting question, Tessa, there around what did you enjoy most about doing the research and doing this work, and what was kind of the dull part of the process? Yeah.
I like that because writing books can be very draining, dull, stressful, all those things. Honestly, I was a little bit nervous writing this book because I have a lot of networks, but I am not networked with people in HR, and in the hiring space. I mean, I know just not enough. So I had to talk to strangers, and I had to learn things like if you send a calendar invite without someone first saying, yes, I'll meet with you, they'll think you're a ridiculous person and you're presumptuous. So my favorite part was actually learning how to talk to strangers myself, people outside of my space, and learning and being pleasantly surprised at how much people like to talk about themselves. So one of the reasons why I'm such a big advocate about talking to strangers is because as a closeted introvert, I had to do it and I found it way more enjoyable than I thought. And so did the other person. And people really like to talk about themselves. And that's why I've organized all my networking advice just around information seeking, not you talking about you, but you asking the questions. And most of those conversations went way longer than intended, and they were super fascinating. And I think that was my favorite part, actually, which surprised me because I thought I would hate it as someone who gets burned out and drained from lots of conversation. The rest of it was hard. I think data collection for me is always fun. Designing surveys. I'm a researcher by training. That's in my comfort zone. I had a great team, but I wrote this book very quickly. I think, a couple years in between my two published books. And I was also running a lab full time, at NYU, doing a lot of leadership. And I found it to be a very exhausting process. And many times I had deadlines that I mean, the low point, there's two lows. One was me negotiating my contract while being hospitalized. That I would not recommend. That was like an overstep. But I also did things like went to a friend's wedding, got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to meet a deadline, sat at a hotel bar typing while everyone else was hanging out. That stuff sucks. It's not fun. In fact, my husband took all these pictures of me writing this book in weird places because of those deadlines. And so I don't want to sit here and say, being an author is a romantic experience. It can, especially if you're doing other things, it was super stressful. It was a tight timeline. And I think luckily I have editors that let me write in my own voice, and all that was super fun. But that was draining and exhausting. And I definitely had an identity crisis a few times when I was writing this. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I don't have to, like, what am I thinking? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so you needed a little bit of job therapy there, like being author being one of your jobs.
Yep.
Um, there were quite a few questions that came up on the sort of diversity, equity, inclusion topic. One of them I've already asked around pay equity and gender differences, but there are questions around generational differences as well as people of different ages, right? Like ageism at work. So do you have any observations and advice in that space?
Yeah, I think, we're seeing a lot of friction in the workplace along all these dimensions. One thing that, I tried to do is cast a really wide net. I studied people who came from, dozens of countries and different cultures and stuff to try to make the advice I give as generalizable as possible. But that said, there are these isms that still exist. And I think communication at work is an essential piece. Closing these information gaps really requires you to kind of like dig into cultural norms, a hidden curriculum. And not all of us are privy to the same information. And I think leveling the playing field should be a goal that a lot of us have. Like, I wasn't raised in this academic culture. My dad was a construction worker. So I had to learn things the hard way when I violated them, norms, that I didn't know existed. And I think part of the reason why a lot of us struggle is because we are not all exposed to those same local cultural norms, because of our social class, our racial background. We also have major communication differences in the degree to which we're allowed to be blunt in feedback, the degree to which we have to respect status hierarchies at work. I've talked to a lot of folks in India that are like, you absolutely cannot give upward negative feedback to a boss in this particular culture, in this industry. And so telling people to do that seems a little tone deaf. And I think a lot of us are kind of reconciling with that. So no easy answers, but I think a lot of what I try to do is uncover those norms so that we can at least level the playing field for what people do and don't know, and get rid of the assumptions that everybody knows that this is how you do things or this is how we operate here. I also think there's a lot of kind of like culture gaps, organizational level gaps. We assume norms and jargon usage are industry wide, and they just simply aren't. They tend to be much more local than we realize. And so some of those, cultural differences are really actually due to people kind of working in one place for a long time and assuming there's a translation of them to a new place. And they end up having newcomer humps because of that. So I think a lot of those things come up. Generational differences are huge when it comes to how you deal with conflict at work, whether it should be in person or like over email. And I think just having a conversation of what the norms and beliefs are is a good starting point, just to kind of like set all the rules out there of what's being violated and what's not. And we often don't have those conversations, I think.
In your research, so you kind of who is the audience, do you think? Who's the right audience? And the reason I'm asking is from the kind of HR perspective, what can HR professionals, because we understand as a
Yeah.
job goer, everyone is an employee one way or the other,
Yeah.
even if they're self-employed. But from the organizational perspective, what kind of insights and advice would you get, since, it is our job to make employee
Yeah.
experience, career growth, all of this language that companies use right now in investing quite a bit of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So what are we missing, as HR, talent
Yeah.
professionals, and what can we learn from the data that you
Yeah.
gathered?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Like, is this book just for people who are miserable? But what about people on the hiring side who want to stop people from, stop the revolving door of talent? I have a couple of things. First is that this book is full of early red flags that will signal that people are unhappy that aren't the usual suspects. I think we often look for disengagement, quiet quitting, performance decrements. We love a good disengagement survey. Disengagement is not a great indicator of much, or it's an indicator of you're ready to leave. You know, bursts of engagement are actually the biggest early indicator that someone's having an identity crisis. All of a sudden, they're staying really late at work when they didn't used to. They might be trying to reconcile some cognitive dissonance of like, is this what I want? And so I think I go through a lot of what those kind of unexpected red flags are that people might actually be drifting apart or a potential flight risk. There's also a lot of missed opportunities for closing information gaps and improving communication that I think people on the talent development side, hiring side can do to just really stop people from being chronic runners up or underappreciated stars or drifting apart. And then I think lastly, each chapter has a section on the interview process. And this isn't just for people who are interviewing, it's for interviewers. And I'm a huge fan of an honest interview that includes a little bit of tension. You can't develop intimacy in a romantic relationship without some tension in the early dating process. And the same is true for interviews. Hiring managers are very afraid of exposing shortcomings of a company or past mistakes or people who failed. But I think talking about those things and answering the question, what does it look like to fail at this job, is something that all hiring managers should be prepared to answer and they should actually open with. And I feel like you're going to need to be a little vulnerable on the hiring side and the talent development side to expose past mistakes or shortcomings or potential issues that you know this person's going to face with this potential boss. Everyone else has faced them, so don't sugarcoat them now. You don't need to gossip, but you do need to kind of probe into those things and then really, ask questions of candidates that get at preparation for fit and their willingness to overcome some of those difficulties. When we're dating, if we only talk about our strengths and we don't talk about our weaknesses, our own idiosyncratic needs, we're eventually going to break up. So it's better for both parties to kind of lead with those things. So I'm a huge fan of hiring managers being really realistic about these things. And then I'd say the last thing is no one samples in an interview the actual skills of the job that you need, but that's the best predictor of success. And the best interviewer I talked to was trying to find people who are going to be coaches and teach the C-suite something new. So we had them teach the team something, but that wasn't the interview. The interview was after he gave feedback to them about what they did well and what they could have done better. And he looked at their response. And the interview was how they took that feedback. And so if that's the sticking point, then interview on that. Select for that in the actual interview process. Put them through that experience. Don't just ask them, how do you take feedback, which is what everyone does, and give them feedback and see how they took it for a novel task. Things like that, I think, can actually do quite a bit to kind of getting people out of these sticking points.
I love that point because we always talk about what success looks like, right? We ask that question. And it'll be kind of an interesting, an interesting experiment as you interview your potential employer to be asking about, I don't want to fail here. What would it look like if I do, right?
Yeah. What are all the ways I can screw this up? Or what have people done that you hired? I mean, one question I love for hiring managers is like, people that you thought would be a good fit and didn't end up working out, what were some of the red flags you missed? And they should be able to tell you, oh yeah, we thought X would be a really good idea, but it actually ended up being a disaster for this reason. And that's why we're selecting on different traits this time. And transparency about the selection process. I think that's critical for hiring managers to do and people in HR.
Yeah, and I think helping managers even narrate that story of the job is something you need to prepare for, because most managers, as we know, they don't know exactly what they're looking for. They're just going in there for instinct and instinctually react to what they see and the conversation they engage in. So very, very insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much. There are lots of questions very specific to people's situations that have to do with, how to re-enter workforce at a certain age and, how to deal with non-performers. And I just want to finish on the last comment that's specific to NYU, and because there are quite a few people who work for NYU dialing in, as our president has wants to establish the coaching culture
Yep.
at NYU. So, and we're trying to help, the organization define what that coaching culture might look like. Based on, on what you know about social relationships at work, where do you place coaching, and how do you help us get that coaching culture really working rather than being a training room where everyone goes and trains and checks the box, etc.?
Yeah.
So, because you mentioned coaching a couple of times, I really picked up on that.
Yeah. I think you need to have your goals of what do you want out of coaching. I think coaching means a lot of things to different people. Sometimes it means let me teach you how to have some basic communication skills. Sometimes it's learning the hidden curriculum. Sometimes it's sitting in a room and doing a bunch of, watching videos and doing questions. I like a coaching organizational structure around teaching people clear communication goals around how to have tough conversations. What is the kind of hair on fire problem we're trying to solve? And then what are some of those very explicit things that we can teach people to do? And then also critically, when it comes to communication and coaching, it's like culture coaching, figuring out how to spot bad interpersonal dynamics between people, that dyadic dance when things get awry. So a lot of my work isn't about how to be a good communicator. I mean, that's kind of the theme. It's about how do you communicate failure feedback? How do you deal with intractable conflict on teams? Here are the patterns we typically see. Let's teach you to identify those in yourself. Do you tend to be an avoidant person who is going to bait and switch anytime things get uncomfortable? Who's going to, give a bunch of barriers to problems? Are you a really direct person who's told all the time XYZ? I try to overcorrect that. Okay, let's take that narrative out and talk about specificity of feedback. This isn't about being nice or mean. This is about giving useful feedback that's specific, it's behavioral, it's immediate, it's about a thing. It's not about your impression. And I think you can teach these skills to people who are not empathic, who are shy, who feel like they're not good at reading people. So it's not about teaching you to be like an empathic leader. It's about teaching you how to structure things. Really clear, like conversational starting points, like emailing feedback ahead of time instead of delivering it in the moment when it's tough. Framing conversations around closing information gaps, not around telling you what you did wrong. Little things that we can do to actually just improve the day to day of these difficult conversations that we're having. And coaching is just teaching skills and then having people practice the skill on you. It shouldn't be any different than, say, teaching baseball. And it's not soft, it's not nebulous, it is structural, it's specific, and it teaches people to identify patterns. And I think for me, when I do coaching, that's how I do it. And I try to make it small and bite sized so that it doesn't feel like I have to become a new person all of a sudden. And it's also highly engaging. And I think having people practice is really essential. Passive learning does not work in this setting. Big in a room kinds of things don't. And I think that's kind of like key, but really learning how to kind of hit those major points and making it incredibly explicit what your goals are going in. So it doesn't just feel like you're checking a box. I'm also someone who does a lot of like kind of one-on-one coaching, and I try to take the sting out in all the ways. And I've sort of learned what works and what doesn't. And those are just some of the kind of main points that I try to hit.
Excellent. So Tessa, we want to bring you back and the next semester to talk about your first book, Jerks at Work. I think we've generated enough interest, and I can see from some of the questions that there's a lot of specific references to a relationship with a manager that's not working out, et cetera, for whatever reasons. But I think you just take such a fresh approach to the issue that we all have to deal with, and so we want a sequel to this conversation, and we will definitely get everyone invited. Thank you very much. This was amazing, very insightful. And I just want to flag a couple of our next events that are coming up. We will have our own Mary Ciani talk about her book on Consultants Compass. Cool. And then we will have Ravan Jesuthasan to talk about his new book on skill-powered organization. As you know, skills is all about, it's what the whole rave is about right now in HR. So we're going to hear that. And we'll definitely have Dr. West back to talk to us about how to deal with people who do not exactly work out in the office. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you soon. Have a great rest of September. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.